Hi, everybody. Welcome to your read aloud video for CR11, the French and Indian War. For this video, I will not be highlighting, but I will be giving you tips on where to find your answers to your questions. So you want to have your questions handy. Here they are. We have 15 questions to answer today from the reading, and let's get started. The French and Indian War. In June 1749, the governor of New France sent a group of men down the Ohio River. The men stopped from time to nail an engraved lead plate to a tree or to set one in the ground. These plates proclaimed that the fertile land of the Ohio Valley belonged to France. About the same time, Christopher Gist, a Virginia fur trader, was also roaming the Ohio Valley. Gist worked for the Ohio Company, a group of English investors. King George II had given the company a huge tract of land in the valley. They sent Gist to find a good spot for settlement. Gist chose a site where the Ohio and Allegheny rivers meet. On a rock beside the water, he carved these words: The Ohio Company, FEBY 1751, by Christopher Gist. Clearly, with two great powers claiming the same land, the stage was set for conflict. At stake was more than control of the Ohio Valley. France and England each hoped to drive the other nation out of North America altogether. All right, so you're going to stop here and you're going to look for the answer to question 1. By the way, I just realized FEBY probably means February. I was trying to figure that out. That would be the date, February 1751. So in this section here, you're going to want to try to locate what part of America was claimed by both the French and the English in the middle of the 1700s. So pause your video and let me add here. You're probably going to find it twice in this section here. And you can highlight it both times, or you can just highlight it once, but you're going to want to highlight it and then number it for question 1. Pause the video now. Be back in a minute. Okay, once you've found the answer to question 1, you'll be wanting to look ahead to question 2. How many times did the French and English fight one another between 1689 and 1748? And also, when did the French and Indian War begin, and when did it end? 3 times between 1689 and 1748, France and Great Britain had fought for power in Europe and North America. Each war ended with an uneasy peace. In 1754, fighting broke out for a 4th time. The struggle that followed lasted until 1760. English settlers called the conflict the French and Indian War because it pitted them against France and its Native American allies. So you'll want to stop here and look for the answer to question 2 and question 3 from this chunk of the reading here. Okay, we're ready to move on. Looking for question 4. Native Americans choose sides. So we're looking for the answer to why did English traders cross the Appalachian Mountains? Native Americans choose sides. At first, most English settlers were content to remain along the Atlantic coast. By the 1740s, however, traders from New York and Pennsylvania were crossing the Appalachian Mountains in search of furs. Pushing into the Ohio Valley, they tried to take over the profitable French trade with the Indians. And I think you can probably stop there and find the answer to that question, question 4. Okay, we will now move on. Hopefully you pause the video and answer that question. And we're going to read for a little bit here before we actually find the answer to question 5 and 6. I'll let you know when that's coming up. Native Americans had hunted animals and grown crops in the Ohio Valley for centuries. They did not want to give up the land to European settlers, French or English. One Native American protested to an English trader, "You and the French are like the two edges of a pair of shears, and we are the cloth which is to be cut to pieces between them." At the same time, both France and England tried to make Indian allies. The French expected the Indians to side with them. Most French in North America were trappers and traders, not farmers like the English. The French generally did not destroy Indian hunting grounds by clearing forests for farms. Also, many French trappers married Native American women and adopted their ways. France built strong alliances with several Native American groups. The French gained the support of the Algonquins. They also built friendly relations with the Hurons. So we'll pause here because you're going to be looking for the answer to question 5 and 6 from this section here. Question 5, why did the French expect the Indians to take sides with them? And question 6, what were two major Indian groups who supported the French? Okay, hopefully you found the answer to question 5 and 6. We're going to be moving on, and we're going to be looking for the answer to question 7, which is what Indian group sided with the English? In contrast to the French, English settlers were mostly farm families. They ignored Indian rights when they cleared land for crops, nor did they respect Indian ways. As the English moved onto their lands, the Indians fought back. Still, in the end, England also found allies among Native Americans. The English won over the powerful Iroquois nations, who were old enemies of the Algonquins and the Hurons. Okay, so please highlight which Native American group allied with the English. Okay, we are ready to move on to the next section here. The war begins. This is a long section. I am going to help you with questions 8, 9, and 10. So I will be stopping when those questions come up. The war begins. Scuffles between France and Britain in the Ohio River Valley triggered the opening shots of the French and Indian War. Young George Washington played a major role in this early phase of the conflict. At the time, George Washington was only 22 years old, but he was an able and brave soldier. Washington had grown up on a plantation in Virginia, the son of wealthy parents. Gifted at mathematics, he began working as a land surveyor at the age of 15. His job took him to frontier lands in western Virginia. In 1753, when Lieutenant Governor Dinwiddie wanted to warn the French out of Ohio, Washington offered to deliver the message. On this dangerous mission, the young officer narrowly escaped death. After Washington returned, Dinwiddie promoted him to colonel. He also sent the young man west again. At the time, some wealthy Virginians claimed land in the upper Ohio Valley. To protect their claims, they urged the governor of Virginia to build a fort where the Monongahela and Allegheny rivers meet. Dinwiddie ordered Washington to take a party of 150 men and build the fort. In April 1754, Washington and his party headed for Ohio country. Along the way, they heard that the French had just completed Fort Duquesne at the fork of the Monongahela and Allegheny rivers. This was the very spot where Dinwiddie had ordered Washington to build a fort. Determined to carry out his orders, Washington journeyed on. Indian allies revealed that a French scouting party was camped in the woods ahead. Marching quietly through the night, Washington surprised and scattered the French. Washington's success was short lived, however. Hearing that the French were planning to counterattack, he and his men quickly built a makeshift stockade. They named it Fort Necessity. A huge force of French and Indians surrounded the fort. Trapped and heavily outnumbered, the Virginians were forced to surrender. Soon after, the French released Washington and he returned home to Virginia. Despite Washington's defeat, the British quickly saw the importance of the skirmish. The volley fired by this young Virginian in the forests of America, a British writer noted, has set the world in flames. All right, so let's go back to those three questions, questions 8, 9, and 10. Question 8 is asking, what message did George Washington deliver for the French governor in 1753? So the message that he was asked to deliver was this governor, Dinwiddie, kind of a funny name, right? Wanted to warn the French out of Ohio. They wanted to tell the French to leave. That was the message. So that would be question 8. That was the message that Washington was asked to deliver. And then what happened to Washington? I'm sorry, question 9. What did the governor ask Washington to do when he sent him west for a second time? Let's see if you can find that. What he was asked to do was to take this party of 150 men and build a fort. And that would be question 9. And then question 10 is asking what happened to Washington at Fort Necessity. We could almost highlight this entire paragraph, but basically he was surrounded and he was outnumbered, so he was forced to surrender to the French. That would be question 10. So we're going to move on. We're going to be looking for the rest of the questions in this section, the Albany Congress. While Washington was defending Fort Necessity, delegates from 7 colonies gathered in Albany, New York. The delegates to the Albany Congress met for 2 reasons. They wanted to persuade the Iroquois to help them against the French. They also wanted to plan a united colonial defense. So you are looking for the answer to question 11 from this section. 11 is asking, why did delegates from the colonies meet in Albany? And you're going to be looking for 2 reasons. Okay, this next paragraph is going to have 3 answers. Question 12, 13, and 14 can all be answered in this next paragraph. So be looking for those questions. You might want to pause now and read those questions to yourself, questions 12, 13, and 14, so that you can highlight them after we've read this passage. The delegates in Albany knew that the colonists had to work together to defeat the French. Benjamin Franklin, the delegate from Pennsylvania, proposed the Albany Plan of Union. The plan was an attempt to create one general government for the 13 colonies. It called for a grand council made up of representatives from each colony. The council would make laws, raise taxes, and set up the defense of the colonies. Okay, so again, you're going to want to pause and find the answers to questions 12, 13, and 14 from this paragraph here. Okay, let's read the last paragraph together where you will be finding the answer to question 15. Question 15 is asking, why didn't any of the colonial assemblies approve the plan? Why did they not like this plan? The delegates voted to accept the plan of union. When the plan was submitted to the colonial assemblies, however, not one approved it. None of the colonies wanted to give up any of its powers to a central council. The largest colony, Virginia, had not even sent a delegation to the Albany Congress. A disappointed Benjamin Franklin expressed his frustration at the failure of his plan. Everyone cries a union is necessary, but when they come to the manner and form of the union, their weak noodles are perfectly distracted. Kind of a funny way to say these colonies just could not work together and get along. All right, so check out this cartoon here, a famous political cartoon created by Benjamin Franklin, first published in his newspaper, the Pennsylvania Gazette, right after this Albany Congress. And be thinking about this final question here. What do the parts of the snake represent?